Just keeps getting more organized and clean in here. I love it. This is just awesome. Went ahead and moved this bigger drill press over on this side because it's kind of cluttering up the corner over there. We don't use it as much because this is a bigger chuck and little tiny bits don't go in it, and we have another one over there that we use, so I figured I'll move it over here with the end mill. And then we traded our hydraulic fitting shelving unit for this one because it's on a rollable stand. And then I mounted all this, and then I quickly put together, I'm sorry, this is my lunch because I haven't eaten yet. But all the dies for the press here, for my crimper, I figured I'll make a tool holder. And you can just sit like that, and then you just grab which one you want. And I got it marked here, so like 733 would be like your 1/2 inch die, and 737 would be like your 1 inch. Yep, 1 inch. Now you're probably thinking like, why do I have an open spot up on top? This crimper here can do 1 1/4 inch, but we don't have the dies. So in the future, if I ever come across one on eBay or someplace or wherever it might be, I'll try to find a set of dies for that because there's times you do 1 1/4 inch. And then obviously we're still going through and finishing out this area, organizing. Move this right there so we can get bolts and hydraulic fittings and all that stuff. I got to go through that and fix that. We also got a different rack for all of our hydraulic hoses. And yeah, it's getting a lot more organized. But I've been playing around with the lathe a little bit, getting more familiar with it. And speaking of that, I think it's about time for us to tackle something that really needs to get tackled. Well, it doesn't really, but I really want to. This right here, they don't make them anymore. I've looked everywhere. I have contacted many different places. Nick has too. Nobody has anything like it. There was a dealership that I talked to. They found one of these in New York City. So, or not New York City, but New York. And it's used. Don't know the condition. What do you think the price is on a used one? $2,500. Yeah, so we can't do that because we might be getting the same thing, or if not worse than what we have right now. So I went to a couple shops and talked to a few people, and I had a couple thoughts on how to fix this. One, either you build the surface up and then you turn it down, and that would probably be a good option, except for this is a cast. When John Deere made their stuff, they cast it and then they cut it all out, and then away you go. Trying to weld on cast and build up cast is really not easy. It can be done. There's guys out there that can do it, but you could be causing more problems than actually doing good. So the next thing then is you cut these down just enough to take out all those grooves, and you polish it up and make it look really nice and pretty. Then you got to make new bushings to fill up the gap. So here's our, it's funny because like these are called bearings. Like you got your rod bearings, your crankshaft bearings. They're a bushing. So is this. This is an oil bushing, but they call it a bearing. But then some people call it a bearing, but not a bushing. And so each place I go to, they're like, no, it's a bearing. And then I hear people like, no, it's a bushing. So anyways, that's been frustrating for me. I'm going to call it a bearing because that's what I think it should be. I'm going to make new bearings out of this bronze 660 grade. And I found this. This is not cheap, and this is huge. But I'm going to make it so that it will slide right over what I cut. And then I'll make it so it can press into that housing, and I hope I can get it done right. And then on the other side, I got this other one here too that I got to make 2 of them. And hopefully I do it right. And then we can, once we get that, then we can take that whole transmission, all the clutch bands, and not clutch bands, the brake bands, or what do you want to call it, clean them all up, assemble it all, put it back to the way it is, and then we should be good to go. But I need to make one that'll fit right here, bushing. There's also a bushing on the other side of this one right here, and then there's a bigger one. Well, you get the idea. There's a couple of them. And that's what I got to do. Enough talking. I think it's about time to start getting busy and make this happen. Oh, and then I got a live center. That's a 5-inch diameter cone. Like a 75 degree. It's cute. So yeah, you get the idea. Big rubber mat. Let's put that in there. She's a little heavy. Having a little bit too many Doritos. Not my fault. Okay. This is gonna be fun. Ooh, this is. There we go. So there's splines on this side, and I want to make sure that the jaws don't hit the splines and damage them and so forth. And there's a little cup there. So like, let's just say this much here doesn't have splines, everything down below has splines. Right in that one spot that doesn't have splines, I'm able to chuck it right there. It was meant to be this way. Now, I don't have a forward jaw, but I did order one. It's not here yet. Oh, cool. It won't hit. It barely clears underneath there. Now I'm taking off very, very, very little pieces at a time, like just a tiny little bit. And I'm just about down to where then I want to polish it. There's just a tiny little groove, actually two of them. There's one here and then one there. That's just need a little bit more. I mean, it's ever so slightly, but it's looking good. And I'll tell you right now, I'm really impressed with this lathe. There's just like no chatter, and it's just solid. This thing's a beast. Pretty happy with it. Okay, let's pull off a little bit more and then polish it up, flip it, and try the other side. So I don't know if you guys can tell. Let me get something to point because I got fat fingers. So you can see a little dark line. Well, I can. I don't know if you guys can't. But there's a little tiny dark line right there. That little line is the deepest groove that was in there. I've taken everything else off, and then I barely got to a point to that line. I don't want to take too much off. And there's a lot of meat still on this thing, so for those that are scared about, like, this thing's gonna blow apart inside your transmission, and then it'll be junk because you took off way too much material. That's possible. But I don't think we're gonna have a problem. There's just, I mean, I literally, I barely took anything off. There's just a tiny itty bitty little, I mean, they're more like dust than chips. I'll pick that up later. But now the next step is I'm going to use some emery cloth here and try to polish this up a little bit to see how it looks. And if it looks really smooth and good, then I like it. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to carefully, I'm just going to use my fingertips to hold this band. So if it happens to catch and wrap around, it'll rip it right out and not pull me in. Obviously you can tell I don't have any sleeves on or a sweatshirt. That's the smart thing to do. So what I think I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna bump up the speed a little bit. Obviously there's a process to start this. I think we went over it, but I gotta start the phase converter, then start the motor on the lathe, and then I've got my happy go switch over here that then lets this thing go hoo-ha. There we go. Oh, that's kind of fun. Okay. Now let's see what this spins at. That's pretty good. We try a different speed. That's better. Okay, so now, like I said, fingertips. So I'm not putting much pressure. Ever so lightly. So I'm just taking off all the high edges and just polishing it. I'm letting it do the work, I'm not doing the work, and I'm not putting much. And the other thing too is I'm going back and forth a little bit. I'm not just letting it sit in one spot. I'm also taking this and letting it go down a little bit further so I get different sandpapers. pretty. I'll tell you one thing, that's a lot nicer than it was. Now one thing I have to do too, there's a little hole here, and this is an oil hole, oil port I should say. It allows the oil that's bathed in this or spraying around on it to go into the bearing, and that's how you get the oil inside of it. So there's going to be little burrs on there, so I'm going to take a little tool and deburr that, make sure I clean them up so there's no junk, because the worst thing you'd hate to have is get this all done, you forget to do that, and then all of a sudden while it's running in the field or on the road, those little pieces get stuck inside of your bearing and chew it all up, and then you're back to, well, that was kind of a waste of time. As you can tell, I'm pretty excited. That guy over there is not. You guys want to see what he's doing? What you doing up there? It's a cover-up. Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling a little blue because I got stuck with this job, but hey, looking at it, it lifts me up. He's having fun, I'm having fun. I like to tinker. He likes to make things pretty. All right. I think we are done with this one. That is incredibly smooth. I wish you guys could feel how smooth that is. Although there's machinists out there be like, oh, you did it wrong. That's horrible. It's gonna, no. And you guys are right. I didn't go to school to be a machinist. A lot of guys out there did. You guys are smarter than me. I'm learning. And in the comments, you'll tell me what I did wrong. And that's what I need. I'm also gonna try a little bit of Scotch Brite. Just a little bit of it and see how that feels. Just a tiny bit. Maybe I'm going overkill, but I like it. I don't think I can get much better than that. I think we are good. So now, I'm gonna keep this nice rubber mat here so when I pull off my chuck or my lathe or heavy things like this, if I happen to drop it, which I will, it will hopefully not hit as hard. Let's put a little bit more on this. Now that I got it trued up, it's actually pretty spot on. This other side I noticed it had kind of like an oblong on one spot, like just a tiny hump like an egg, kind of like a camshaft, and I think it was just the way it was wore. Like the rest of the sides were pretty good, just that one little hump, so I didn't worry too much about it. This one here has the same thing, just a tiny little bit of a hump, but it's pretty much like true. So I'm going to cut this down, barely remove, only enough that I need to, no more. I had to step away yesterday to go do some stuff with the family, so I stopped where I was at, and I was happy where I stopped at because the inside diameter here is about 4 thou over. No, 3 thous over. That's what I did. So it's just barely bigger than this, which is exactly what I wanted. And yeah, I'm really happy with this turned out. And next step I got to do is obviously cut my groove for the oil groove. I don't know what you want to call it. It's a little valley inside. The original bearing had a tiny groove in there so the oil can sit and keep lubricating. Instead of doing a smooth flat, I want to put a tiny groove in there. So I got to cut that out, but I have to figure out my distance of the center of the bearing to make sure I get that correct. And then after that's said and done, I need to cut the outside diameter to fit the housing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a tiny bit bigger than this housing right here. Just a tiny bit. And then I'll freeze that bronze bushing or bearing, I don't know what you want to call it, freeze it. And then I'm going to take the torch and just slightly warm this up. Not get it hot, like not get it to a point where I can't put my hand on it. Just to warm it up. So that way the metal will expand on this cast and that will shrink on the bronze. And I got to make a tool to press these in so don't damage it. There's also a bearing right here that's the same diameter that I got to take this plate off, press that bearing out and do the exact same thing. So I'm making 2 bearings for the small on this. And so far I'm very happy how it's turning out. Let's start turning the outside of this down and making it to the dimensions that we need. By the way, last year somebody sent me this boring bar. Came in the mail and I couldn't use it because it was so massive for other lathe. Wouldn't fit in our tool holder. And so this here is still a little bit bigger from my tool holder that I have. And I turned it down a little bit with the lathe and stuck it in here, and this thing's a boss. This thing's awesome. Thank you. Whoever you are, thank you. Appreciate that. One thing I'm doing is I'm making a little step here that's oversized of the diameter that I need on the outside. So when I'm shaving off all this extra material to discover the bushing underneath, I know if I get to that point, I don't go any further. And then once I shave all that off, then I'll come back and then I'll fine tune the outside diameter to match the casting of that housing. You got it? Okay. One feature that I didn't have on my other lathe was the digital readout. So they got a scale, I guess you could call it a scale, on the X and Y axis on the lathe. And then that will determine on where it's positioned. And what's kind of cool about this is, and I just kind of playing with it because I haven't messed with one before, you can zero it out. So like what I did is I zeroed it out on my last pass right there. So that is 0. Anything beyond that I can really fine tune and add like 2 or 3 thousandths, 4 thousandths, 10 thousandths, whatever it is. But when I cut a pass, I never just leave the tool in one spot, my like carbide bit. I don't just drag it back because then you'll scrape the surface. So what I gotta do is I gotta cut, pull back, go over, go back in. And with that digital readout, I can see exactly where my 0 is, and then I know how much more I cut before. And let's just say if I cut 0 on the first pass, zeroed it out, when I pull out and go back over, and I want to do like 0.002, put it in there, it's going to cut a tiny little bit and so forth. So that's pretty cool. I'm learning, and if I'm wrong, you guys are going to tell me what to do right so I can do it right and not wrong. So like right now, I'll show you guys what I'm doing. It probably doesn't show up very well in the camera because it's probably flashing. In fact, you probably can't see it, but it works for me. You guys can see it, awesome. So right now what I'm doing is I'm almost at the edge of no return, so I don't want to get that diameter smaller than it needs to be. So what I'm doing is I'm going 1 thou every cut. Getting closer. Now this is measured to that cast iron housing. I've got it about 3 thou over, roughly. Once it barely starts to go over, then I'll really check and make sure everything's right. That is slicker than slick. Man, that barely takes off anything. I like that. Love the power feed. Didn't have that on my other one. All right, I'm gonna put a little groove inside for the oil groove. Next step is I got to take the cutoff blade, get it to the right length that I need, and then chop it. Hopefully it reaches. Okay, good. So when I cut this off, it's just going to drop onto here and just kind of ride it. Hopefully it doesn't damage it. I don't think it will. She's pretty. Wow, that's cool. Now, there's some stuff on here. Now there's still a little lip here that I gotta pull off that I didn't cut. You can see that ring, and I'll just barely trim that off, but let's see. That's cool. All right, let's go over here and see how this fits. Boy, I hope I did this right. It's gonna press in there. I think I got it. All right, now I gotta take that ring there off. I should cut this other one off too. Get that done before I remove that. That's cool. That is just so neat. Big chunk of bronze, and now look at it. So a guy told me he's been doing these for a long time, like 40 some years. He said rule of thumb, and a lot of you guys out there probably would say otherwise, and I don't know, I took his advice. He said for every inch on the diameter, you go 1 thou over for an oiled bearing. So this is almost 4 inches. I went 3 thou over, not 4. I figured 1 less would be probably better, and I think it's like exactly what I did, because that little tiny play in there, I mean, it's very, 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 very minute. But I'll tell you right now, it's better than what it was. Because this old bearing, here's the problem with these old bearings. They have a metal casing around the outside, and then they've got bronze like embedded into the inside. So what happened is contaminants got into the transmission somewhere and wore it down, and then on this one here you can see on the inside there's bronze, and then there is no bronze, it's metal. So this was running metal on metal for a while. This top one wasn't as bad, but it was enough where I was like, nah, we better make new bushings and cut that down. So we've got this one finished, which is so exciting, and I have a feeling that I might do better on the next one because I'm learning more about this lathe. And these fit. They will fit. Keyword will, because I haven't done it yet. But I cannot slide that in. I could feel like it's just about to go in. Like if I tapped it in with a hammer, it would go in, but I'm not going to do that. Like I said, I need to make something to press these in so I don't damage them. And that'll be the next step after I get the bushings done. Oh, that is so cool. It's a shame of all the waste though. You look at how thick this thing is versus how thin that is. Yeah, that's pretty cool. This old one here will go in the inside diameter. Now granted, it's probably not perfectly round. It probably warped a little bit. So I'll just kind of get a rough average. 3.754. And then I'll take a measurement of the new one I made. And this will tell you how much difference and how much slop. 3.742. 23 thousandths. That's how much more I increased it. So it's 23 thousandths thicker than the worn out one. Granted, I did take off a little bit on that cast, so you got to factor in, but it was very minute. It must have been probably maybe 5/8 thousandths of it. It wasn't bad at all, but I figured we better do it. So when you're said and done, yeah, I don't know what you guys think, but I think it was worth it. Now the question is, how long will it run? Will it run the length of my lifetime as long as that loader's here? I hope so. Okay. Coffee break, and then we'll start the next one. Now granted, I did take quite a bit more material off of the bigger end, so this isn't quite accurate because I had to take those grooves out because, like I said, it was metal on metal. But nope, no go. All right. Bronze in my mouth. Must have got stuck in my Joe Dirt looking kind of scruff. I got a little bit better looking than him, but still. Yummy. I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grip it from the inside, not the outside. And then I'll start on the inside first and cut out what I need. And then that way I'll have a little bit more meat so it won't chatter. And then I will cut the outside. At least that worked pretty well in the last one. It worked pretty well. Why change it? Unless somebody else tells me other on how to do it right. I like to do this. I don't know if other people like to do this, but what I'll do is I'll chuck it up in the lathe. I'll face the one end, then I'll flip it around so the faced end is up against my tool chuck. Not tool, my chuck. That way, if in case of some reason it chatters, it can't shift and move. It's got to be forced against the jaws of the chuck. I like to do that, but each their own, you know? So with this being chucked up, okay, that's tight. There we go. Listen to that baby purr. That's so cool. Little glitter dust. I'm gonna save it, give it to my kids for projects, and then they can get it all around the house. You're gonna find it everywhere. Just so you know, this was a pretty clean area. And then I made a mess. See, it's nice flat surface. Now, I wasn't worried. There's another way of doing this thing too. If you put it in there and this one face isn't true, it could be cockeyed, and then I face the surface on this side and now it's flush, and so when I flip it around, the piece could wobble. I wasn't really too worried about it because I got so much meat on this thing that I will find the perfectly square, true, majestic looking bearing inside. So I'm not worried about trying to get it too square because I'll make it square. Now, I faced it, flipped it, I'm gonna face it, and then I will start boring. So I did 2 thousandths. 2 thou. Throw it away. Redo it. Garbage. And then I'll take this, put it on the lathe. I'm gonna cut that little lip off and polish it. I just got this out of the freezer, and you know how I said I was gonna like heat this other piece up and put it in? I don't know if I have to. I'm gonna try pressing it in because it cooled down quite a bit. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the other bronze piece to push on. That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I won't have to heat these up. They cool down enough where I can just press them right in. Oh, that's pretty. Got a little greasy on my hands, so why not get my camera greasy? There we go. Meant to be. As I clear my throat. One thing I did notice, assuming gets me far in life, I thought both bearings were the same. One's a little shorter. So I pressed this one in, but that's okay because I can put this in the lathe and then just barely trim off the excess that I don't need, and it'll be fine. I meant to do that, you know? But anyways, now the next thing that I gotta do is go back here and grab that one, try to get the other bearing in. And that's the one that I might have to shave the bearing down a little bit. Bushing, bearing, outside diameter of that thing's got to be trimmed a little bit. We'll see. But so far I'm happy how these are turning out. All right, let's grab this thing out of the freezer. Tad bit chilly. Not too bad though. See if it'll fit. Hopefully it'll be a snug enough fit that I don't have to worry about it ever popping out. Yeah. Look at that. I love it.
I'm not looking at it.
Don't look at it.
I won't look at it.
Don't look at it.
I won't look at it.
It ain't coming out.
It's coming out.
It's probably gonna be in the junkyard someday.
Go to the junkyard someday.
It's gonna go in the junkyard. I don't think anybody's ever gonna fix this again. Unless I didn't do it right and then I have to fix it again, but I think I'm okay. One thing I want to say too is every once in a while, some of you probably hate it, some other people don't mind listening, but you know, I think we gotta be careful, and this is for everybody, and myself as well. Be careful to a point where you don't get, and I've talked about this before, but unteachable. If you get to a point where you think you know it, nobody's going to teach you something, you know how to do it, don't listen to anybody else, you should be really, really careful about that point in your life. And that pride, that is what it is, you will fail because you think you know it all. And you're not willing to listen to others, you're not willing to learn something new. And I think we all have a point in our life that we want to put our mark on this world, and often our mark that we feel like we're putting and laying down is that we were better than somebody else, that we knew better, that we could do something better, that we were more important than somebody else. And when you get to that point, you got to be careful. You got to step back and say, no. I can always learn something each day. There's always something new. And you want to be teachable. I want to be teachable. I want to be to a point where I can learn something new every single day. All this machining, all this fabricating, all these things has been years and years and years of learning and being self-taught and picking up things from other people, and I don't want that to be ever a point where I can't learn something. all this lathe work, milling work, I am no professional. I am not a professional by any means. And I hope I never get to that point where I think that I'm better than somebody else, because I am not. I can never be better than somebody else. I might have better skills because I've learned how to deal with that and how to get better, but I want to be teachable. So I am saying thank you to those out there that have told us, hey, that's not how you do it. You should try it this way because this is the way that you should do it. Thank you. I didn't know that. I'm glad you said that, and I want to be able to learn more. So your guys' comments and the things that you say have helped us tremendously. Now there's those out there that just, well, let's just say they're a sour apple, and they are not very happy inside. So you got to be careful about those people. But for the most part, be teachable.